Nation station, Manx Radio.
Well, fast am I, good afternoon. Welcome along to Manx Radio's Mannin Line. For Tuesday, 25th of March. Open line through till 1 o'clock. Alex sitting in for Andy today. What would you like to talk about? Well, there's lots in the news and there's lots on everybody's lips. The assisted dying bill is progressing to the next stage, following its time in Ledgeclough this morning. Also, Central Douglas MHK is reflecting on the sudden resignation of the Isle of Man government's chief executive, the top civil servant of the land. Do you have any opinions on this matter? Okay, there was quite a few comments on breakfast this morning. Yes, he's only been in post for 18 months. And is it normal for someone of such a high rank to only be able to give 7 days' notice? What notice period do you have to give in your work? Okay. I appreciate, obviously, from the statement that was released that it was due to a bereavement. But normally, of course, in places of work, you'd be granted compassionate leave for such situations. So, what is going to happen at the top echelons of government? Okay. And lots of people having comments and opinions online as to whether this reflects well on the state of the Isle of Man. Lots of phrases about ships and sinking and abandoning and things like this was many people's opinions online. What's your thoughts? And also, on any other topic of the day, it would be good to hear you on 66 13 68. If you haven't got time to call us, of course, you can send a text to 166 177 or WhatsApp. Just add us to your contacts, 166 177. But we'll go straight to the phone lines because it's always good to go to the phones first. Robert's on the line. Good afternoon, Robert.
Hi, how you doing? Ready for an argument today? How are you?
Oh, I'm not so bad. We don't have an argument. We have a debate, surely.
We have a debate. We have a discourse, don't we? We have a very
Exactly.
pleasant debate.
Fire away. What would you like to talk about?
I think the Isle of Man government has no interest whatsoever in terms of dealing with the lower class or the working class. They just use them as, if we're going for war, then we'd be subscripted into the army or something like that. That's as low a peg as we are for them. I mean, we're nothing to them. All they do is work for the City of London. They have no interest in dealing with Manx culture whatsoever. And they've got no interest in dealing with the housing issues.
What evidence do you sort of give to back up your thoughts on that one? Because in terms of, I'll pick culture because it's an area I know about. In terms of culture, they invest and support heavily in various different cultural initiatives, surely.
I just think the general state of play of the look on the street, and I'm the man on the street at the end of the day, so that's my experience, is that there's no want or desire to re-engage with Manxness in terms of like Manx culture or Manx community. I suppose community is the word that would be the fulcrum of it. And there just doesn't seem to be any point of care whatsoever with people coming up. I mean, I'm going to say it, I'm going to be cursed for it, but, you know, it's Bitcoin culture and general Facebookiness and things like that. There just seems to be a lack of interest, and people just get glazed eyes, and it just seems to be, well, that's the way it is because that's the way we're told it. I think the Isle of Man government is purely there, purely for British interests. It doesn't serve anything to do with the Isle of Man, and the civil servants are right all the way up it.
How would you like to see that change in your opinion, though? Because if we go back through history,
well, I'm a Republican.
Yep. Yeah, well, basically what you're stating is that the Isle of Man government, which is a democratically elected government, if you're a Republican and you wanted, I don't know, I would presume an independent Isle of Man with a republic, surely that's still going to be democratically elected people. What will be different?
Yeah, but at the moment, sorry, what's your name again?
Alex.
Alex, sorry, Alex.
I've been called worse, Robert, so you can pick any name, don't worry.
No, I respect you. I think we go back a while. But anyway, in terms of like the civil service at the moment, you can't get rid of the person who's head of your department if you're a politician, and there's no actual incentive in terms of carrot or stick for measurable gains that would be made in terms of progress and efficiencies,
Right.
like Doge and things like that within the department. I'm not massively in favour of the Trump era and all the rest of it, but efficiencies just, they can't even be gleaned at the moment.
So basically, you'd like to see some more accountability in terms of the people we vote in are the people who should have the power, and if they're people who are employed by government don't do, I'm putting this in very simple terms, don't do the bidding of the people in power, well, they shouldn't be there.
Yeah, I mean, it's the civil service who basically run the show. You know, they're the backbone of the whole system on the Isle of Man. It's a massive industry. It's a massive employer, and you know, they just feed up to the politicians about what's going on. There's just no Manx community left. I mean, I literally own Manx Stock Community, and I've been sat on it for the past 3 or 4 years. I'm thinking, well, what's it there for? What's actually useful for? You know, what do I entertain it with? Where do I point it to? Where do I go to? I just can't see anything that gives me credence to do any of that.
How would you feel that, because, you know, we all don't like change, it's unnerving and things like this, and if we go back through history, we know that the Isle of Man has been in very different situations over the years in terms of its relationship with its neighbours. It's a crown dependency now. It was once under the rule of the British Crown. You know, you go back to the Stanleys and my point I'm trying to make is that obviously we have changed over the years in terms of our situation as an island. How ideally, if you could pick, how ideally would you like it to be?
Well, as a Republican, obviously, I have sentiments, but they would lean more towards being on our own terms, really, in terms of like the strategy of. I mean, we're going into constitutional politics now, which isn't where I wanted to go to. Okay. I'm more talking about the culture of things. Okay. If anything, the Isle of Man would be ROM. It would just be ROM, Republic of Man, and the Manx name would be Mannin, and that's the way it would be, and there wouldn't be any issue on that. I know that everyone who listens to BBC and just gets sucked into the monitor will turn back and say, hang on a second, we haven't even got our own TV station yet, and things like that. So there are certain pillars of the society that do need to be put into position, so to speak, in order for us to stand on our own 3 feet. But it's about autonomy. I mean, that's exactly what the energy crisis and things like that is there for. It's not so much about net zero and things like that. It's about standing on our own 3 feet, for heaven's sake.
I like that phrase, standing on our own 3 feet. That's really good, Rob. I think, we'll finish on a positive. In terms of your opinion of moving forward, we need to stand on our own 3 feet. How does that sound?
Yeah, I'll go with that one. We'll leave it there. Have a good one. I'll try and make an omelette today.
Brilliant. Yes, without breaking any eggs, as they say. Thanks very much to Robert there, whose opinion is the fact that do you feel that the Isle of Man has lost its Manxness? Okay, that when it comes to a lot of the decisions that are made and the agendas, and I don't mean that necessarily in a negative way, but the agendas of what comes from government are in the best interest of the island or the best interest of someone's opinion who might have come from afar and feels that they would work here, which is two very different things. Thank you very much, Robert. Fantastic. Okay, let's challenge Francis on this one. Alex, great, you are doing the show. Any chance you could do it permanently? No. The reason being that since Phil Gaughan took over running Manx Radio, Andy Wint seems reluctant to read out text messages and anything controversial. I assume this is down to Phil's strong ties to government. That's regards from Francis. Number one, Francis, I'm the director of programming, news and content of Manx Radio, so Phil, Andy and everybody else answers to me. So in terms of that, no, that's complete hogwash. Bless him, Phil does an absolutely excellent job, but he's not running Manx Radio. And he has no ties to government aside from the fact that he's our political correspondent and does an excellent job at it. So I'm afraid you're going to have to come up with a new conspiracy there, Francis, because it's me who they answer to, not Phil. Let's have a look what else we've got. David says, Alex, regarding the resignation of the top man in the civil service at short notice, could it be that he's a very highly qualified professional gentleman who's had to deal with what I see as unqualified amateur politicians and maybe has just had enough? Well, possibly that might be, on his personal level. I doubt we'll ever get that in a statement, David. But the question that was asked this morning by a number of listeners on Breakfast was that such short notice, 7 days. Okay, now that if it's due to personal reasons, obviously in a professional working environment, a lot of us are permitted compassionate leave and things like that, which is perfectly understandable in such a situation. But in terms of letting somebody go within 7 days' notice, okay, part of the reason that companies and high-ranking government departments have up to 3 months' notice, or maybe at least a month notice, is for the handover of power. So that the experience and the information isn't lost. Someone's not starting afresh. So it does beg questions from the employment's perspective as to how someone can go with a week's notice. So thank you, David, for that one. And thank you to 382 who says, Alex, don't encourage your callers. I'm very much encouraging callers. Okay, love to hear all points of view. And it's better to have you on the phone than on a text. You can have much more discourse, as Robert put it. So 66 13 68. Thank you very much to 600, who's got a point saying, hi, Alex. When it comes to the 20 mile an hour speed limit, people go faster on private country lanes. This 20 mile an hour seems like a sick joke. Thank you, 600, for that one. It was pointed out to me, of course, that the topic that was rumbling and was getting public opinion was all the issues with Manx care and the health system and the overspend and everything else that was to do around with Manx care. And then suddenly this story came that about 20 mile an hour zones that has distracted public opinion. And if you're a fan of Yes Prime Minister, it's a case of, there's a big storm over here. Well, look over here. We've got something else that'll wind you up. So you'll forget about this other problem. Okay? And some would argue it worked. Is that your opinion? Or is it maybe just topic of the day, which, we've been grappling with for a long time? National speed limit. Crikey, that's been a topic for many, many years. But I'd be willing to hear your opinions. 66 13 68 or text 166 177. Right, let's get to the phone. Bonzo's on. Hello, Bonzo. How are you?
Hello. Yes. Well, I'm sort of, just chilling out. Practicing my bongos, that kind of thing.
I'm glad to hear it. Excellent. What would you like to talk about today?
I've got some congas actually, and next time you're on, I shall have to remember to if there's. You can publicise the fact of when you might be on doing Mannin Line, so I can set up my congas and mic them up, and then we can converse through Facebook or something.
That would be fantastic. Yes, I'm on again tomorrow and Friday, and you got Dave Moore on Thursday whilst Andy takes a bit of leave. So yeah, we'll set that up.
Right. Okay. Friday, I shall see. I shall see if I can sort my congas out.
I'm looking forward to it, Bonzo.
Yes, I can. Yeah, I can explain electoral reform in a dub poet kind of style.
Please do.
Yes, well, this will go on from responding to Robert, although, of course, I can't do it in a dub style at the moment because
no.
I haven't set up my congas. But a lot of his dissatisfaction, I think, comes from the fact that the electoral system doesn't really work. We'll see this in the turnout for the local authorities elections later on in April. Where I doubt you'll get turnouts of more than 30% of the electorate, and probably rather lower.
Do you feel that this is something that is a topic that's been raised a number of times when we dare say local authority reform, that people like the idea of having local authorities, but for an island our size, practically, is it something that we need? Because that day to day, if you went up to someone and said, do you like the idea of having a local council? They go, oh, yes. But would you go out and vote for it? In reality, they don't do it.
No. Well, this is, there are very few things I agree with David Ashford about, but I agree with his ideas on local authority reform, on the idea that it should be 4+1, as in sort of north, south, east, west, and Douglas, rather than some places which are big and some places which are sort of wee parish councils and penny packets,
yes,
and such. But even in that case, the thing is that people will still look and go, oh, it's first past the post anyway. Why should I vote? If I vote for somebody, if I vote for somebody, it's not as if they're going to get in or anything, because all his friends of the other candidate or her friends of the other candidate will vote for them, and people can get in then on very small, localized, friends and family and other people down the pub kind of votes.
But isn't that always going to be
rather than actually on the policies, or rather than actually on any sort of policies?
But isn't that always going to be the case in such a small area as the Isle of Man, that unless we want to be ruled by Westminster, where you've got we're going to be mass numbers away, there is that closeness to politics with such a small number of people, 85,000 circa people. So when we're talking about voting, the numbers are going to be small, aren't they? If you run a good campaign in terms of getting people on your side, but whether it be an element of nepotism, as you point out, or not, that surely there's not going to be very many other options available to you in such a small constituency, is there?
Yeah, well, this is why for local authorities, you should have the 4+1 rather than just sort of little penny packets or something bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And B, you should have proportional representation instead of first past the post with a single transferable vote. And if I recall, we tried that in 2001. Was it 2006?
Now that I would have to check up on, quite frankly. But
I
can find out.
Yeah, check up. But we tried that, and it didn't seem to derail everything, and the horses weren't frightened and the sky didn't fall in. But I think it had the effect of perhaps not producing the results that other people really wanted, which first past the post had a tendency to do. So we went back to the same system, but even worse. Because all the constituencies then became 2-member constituencies with first past the post voting. So it's the worst elements of first past the post squared. So, and when people say, well, things don't change. Well, no, of course they're not going to change. Not with that kind of electoral system.
But if I point you over to the other side of things, that the reason that the first past the post has remained so popular in terms of national elections, we're talking about over here in the UK, everywhere else, is that whilst, as you say, things don't change, that they also seem to, on the whole, produce stable governing bodies.
Yes, like the other place that besides the UK. Isle of Man, uses first past the post system. You know who the other one in the entirety of Europe is?
Yes, yep. No, I didn't say that it always did, but I said as a role. I mean, UK is a prime example.
Oh no,
yes,
because there is only one other place in Europe that uses the first past the post system. That place is Belarus, where it has elected its tyrant president for the 7th or 8th time, I think, with a massive 82% vote.
Can I ask you one thing then, Bonzo? Do you really think that it's the first past the post system that's causing the issues in that country? It purely is the type of voting system they're using.
Well, no. But the thing is that all other places, yes, in Europe, Ireland, even in the UK, Northern Ireland, Scotland and Wales use proportional representation for their local assemblies.
And do you think do you think that produces a better system of government? Because I'd imagine, as much as we always get very wound up about how awful this government is and it's the worst government ever, etc., that if you spoke to a lot of local people there mid-term, they would probably have a similar opinion, surely, of their government, wouldn't they?
Well, people always hate government and estate agents and journalists.
Yes. Well, it's a good one. I mean, I put it to you in terms of wrapping up this conversation. In terms of the Isle of Man, do you feel that if we had local authority reform and it was single transferable vote, for argument's sake, and maybe we had reform to national voting to single transferable vote, do you feel it would solve the issues that Robert raised earlier of the fact that there's no sense of community, no sense of Manxness, and it feels like there is this shadowy civil service that are driving through their own agenda, not in the interest of the people?
Well, of course, it isn't going to be a magic bullet, but the thing is, it will give people the perception, and in many ways, the actuality of the fact that their votes will actually count, and actually being involved in the process will actually allow them to, by virtue of their vote, make some form of change.
Are you stating then that the current system, that our votes don't count?
Largely. I mean, if you go to a place like, Aaron Michael, for example, essentially all Alf Cannon has to do is turn up and put his name on the ballot paper.
But surely he still, he still has to get the votes. If he doesn't get,
even if the votes, don't turn out in the massive numbers because of the structure, the demographics of the seat. And because, of course, his father built up a reputation in the largest piece of the population of the merged Aaron Michael seat in Michael. Therefore, he's just kind of got an automatic majority, really. And that's going to, and you do get that in certain seats where you have certain amounts of political dynasty.
So you'd say that single transferable vote, if we went to that, because I feel that, Aaron Michael, you might have used that as a good example for Alf Cannon. I think Tim Baker, who lost his seat at the last election, would possibly challenge that. That single transferable vote would ensure that that you're not automatically nodded in, that your vote would count for more than if Alf Cannon, for example, puts his name on the ballot paper and he doesn't have to worry about how many votes he gets, because you say he gets voted in by effectively family heritage.
Yeah.
Okay.
That has been very much the case, in that he's sort of inherited a political career from his father, and you'll see that as you look through his career, that's been some of the problem. But I think in order for people to have an idea that they have a stake in the democracy and their views in the democracy are listened to and count for something, then their vote has to count for something. And really, the simplest way for that to happen is electoral reform on the Isle of Man with single transferable vote, both for local authority and for national elections.
Okay. Well, thank you for that one, Bonzo. We'll finish on that line. That Bonzo feels that single transferable vote is the way to get your voice heard. Now, it's interesting because someone did highlight to me when we were having a conversation in terms of, and I'm not the first person to mention this, in terms of a lot of what of Tynwald and the government in general. Obviously, they're two different organisations. Tynwald is the Parliament. But what has been passed and what's been worked through over the Parliament so far, over its 4 years, how much of that did you vote for? How much of that was presented to you as a mandate for when they come round canvassing, knocking on your door with their manifestos? How many of the topics that have gone through and have been pushed? The island plan, assisted dying, whichever side of the argument you're on, and I know for well it's been brought up on Mannin Line, the question of the bishop's vote, and a lot of things that have happened in the Isle of Man. How many of those did you vote for in terms of what was in their manifesto? Because if the government gets in and then just decides on a whole programme of things that wasn't in anybody's manifesto, where is the democratic mandate to do it? That's a question for you. Right. I should point out, by the way, that playing devil's advocate, which I know for well winds some people up, that whilst Bonzo says that Alf Cannon has ridden on the coattails of his father, I'm sure he would argue that actually, in terms of his political career, he has stood on his own 2 feet as Treasury Minister prior to being Chief Minister, and would prefer to be judged on his own record. Whether you judge him positively or negatively. Now, let's have a look. That 776. And Michael Constituent says, tell Bonzo, absolutely not. Alf will be out if he stands. His father was a wonderful politician, but that's where it ends. So this Michael constituent, 776, is not a fan of the Chief Minister if he stands. However, 017 says the opposite. Alf has no competition. What else have we got here? Peter says proportional representation. Now, this is different. Oh, I'm going back to my politics here now. That proportional representation produces coalition governments that are prone to breaking down quite often. That does seem to be the issue. Thank you to Desmond, who says, look what happened to Scotland. What a teapot they had for years. Oh, thank you for that. We were talking about the population and what makes us Manx and what makes us not Manx in terms of community. George has been on saying, Alex, High Wycombe has the same population as the Isle of Man. It's got a Matalan, a Primark, H&M and Aldi. These shops would create jobs in the Isle of Man and attract young people to fill the job vacancies. There is that issue. However, High Wycombe will have a feeding area, won't it? Whereas you can just drive into High Wycombe quite easily from surrounding areas that aren't included in your population. The Isle of Man, you can't just pop in for a day to go to the shops. You can't pop in to do Primark. And I suppose from a business perspective, you've got to have that quantity of scale. So I can kind of understand the business side of that. Let's have a look. H says, I wonder if people running for MHK should have appropriate qualifications and management experience instead of just anyone being able to apply. It's quite scary who might be making major decisions with our health and finances. Maybe they do need a CV, but I haven't heard about it, and I know some past qualification candidates have zero qualifications or competence. Once again, this goes down to who you vote for. Okay, so en masse, if a politician comes around and says, here's my manifesto, and you think it's a load of bunkum, you don't vote for them, and if you do vote for them, they should be following that manifesto. Okay, and if there are decisions going through that wasn't on their manifesto, democratically you ask the question, why? Why are we so accepting of decisions being made on our behalf when we haven't been consulted? Anyway, let's have a look. Alan says, in politics, when someone leaves in such a hurry, it's because there's a storm coming in their departments. Thank you, Alan. That's obviously referring to the departure of the government's top civil servant, Andy Ralphs, who's leaving in under 7 days, leaves next Monday. And we were questioning how the employment of such a role allows for a 7-day notice period. Although in terms of a department, the chief executive is the top civil servant who controls the whole of government. Thank you very much to 376, who's been a bit naughty about Bonzo. So I won't go down that one. Hi, Alex. I was walking along Douglas Promenade yesterday and a cyclist passed me doing more than 20 miles an hour, let alone going at 5, like it should be. I can assure you that I cycle on Douglas Promenade. You'd be good to get more than 20 miles an hour. Crikey. But yeah, it is a good point. And so Gaz says, the chief exec has resigned from government. Does anyone know what the Auditor General is doing? Never mentioned in relation to Manx Care, department finance and staff savings, etc. Good question. What is the Auditor General doing? More to the point, the scale of the Auditor General's job, if you look at the scale of the Isle of Man government, it's a big ask, isn't it? Thank you very much to Text at 575. I'm not going to be done for libel on that one. And George has been on saying the Manx want independence totally. And they moan and moan about it when B&Q arrived. However, they're happy to shop in M&S, which is British. Well, I suppose there's an element to the fact that, yeah, we are in an interconnected world. If you wanted to just live on locally grown produce and locally grown clothing, grown and produced clothing and things like this, you are limited by choice. So how cut off do you want to feel? Anyway, these are a whole host of different topics we can talk about. 66 13 68. You've heard me waffle on enough. Don't leave it to the last 5 minutes. It's 25 to 1 now. If you want to get on the air and talk about any topic that's getting your goat, give us a call. And that is, of course, 66 13 68 or text 166 177.
Waltons have hundreds of TVs in stock ready to go, from Samsung to LG, here on the island. Plus, a large range of main appliances in stock, including fridge freezers, washing machines, and everything your home will need from all the top brands like Smeg, Samsung and Hotpoint. With special offers throughout the store and delivery and installation available, check out Waltons on Facebook or waltons.im. Or, even better, visit Waltons in Isle of Man Business Park, opposite Robinson's, for great prices and great service.
Feeding friends and family with the finest the island has to offer. The Forge Smokehouse and Grill Santon. Fresh Manx produce marinated, slowly cooked, grilled and smoked to perfection right here and served in a gorgeous setting. Just walk in anytime, no booking needed. Parties, family gatherings and weddings, the perfect venue for any occasion. And don't forget our large marquee for any event. Visit theforge.im and see.
I am one car centre, the place to go. Great choice and prices so low. I am one car centre on the main road. Cars of every kind at prices that are hard to find. Visit on Facebook to see the range or call 611 040. Great service, choice and prices low. I am one car centre, the place to go. Manx Radio.
Manx Radio's Mannin Line. It's 25 to 1. Alex with you through until 1 o'clock when Christy is along with 1 to 3, of course. A few of your messages on WhatsApp. Let's have a look. And thank you very much to... who sent this in? It's Derek who sent this in saying, any admin job in government, you need a minimum qualification in maths and English, except for an MHK, for many of whom who can hardly spell. Little harsh, I feel, but I get the point about minimum qualifications. So, thank you to the texter Paul, who says, we need you in the UK. There's loads of stuff going on here that wasn't in anyone's manifesto. Trouble is, you find out after they're elected. Yeah, that's a problem. Disgusted Big John in Ramsey has actually sent some photos in saying, this is a prime example of the Isle of Man, a run-down, shabby petrol station in Douglas. I can assure you, actually, looking at your photos, it's in Alcan. But he said, most of the island looks like a war-torn country. Filthy rubbish strewn and a sad, disgusting state. There is this issue, and I don't know how you get it across to people who are not in the commercial world, that maintain things in good condition. The sea wall down in Douglas, whether you love it or hate it, they've been laying the cables this week underneath the paving. It's all patched up, it's all lumpy, it's all tatty. Aesthetics don't seem to matter, as opposed to maybe doing a good job that looks nice and finished. Okay, and a lot of our sites that visitors come to see have just been bodged and patched because we seem happy with that, and we don't seem to maintain it once it's done. All the new lampposts on Douglas Promenade with the sort of Celtic knot around it, all the paint's peeled off, and they're all corroding. No one's doing anything about it. No repainting. Not making sure that they actually survive in a sea air. It's quite sad. So, Big John, thank you very much for your comment there. Paul says, I agree with the view that messages are definitely not read out if they're not popular. Well, I'm reading them out. I have to say, Paul, from the times I sit here doing Mannin Line, that there's no way I get through all the messages. There are so many. We read them all, but trying to get through them is very, very difficult. So thank you, Paul. Do give us a call if you want to have a chat about something, 66 13 68. We always try to go to the phones first because it's a phone-in programme. And Liz is on the line, and Liz wants to talk about immigration. Hello, Liz.
Hello. Yes. Good afternoon to you.
Afternoon.
Now, I don't know if this is true, but maybe some member of government would reply to this. But a few weeks ago, before I went away to visit my brother for a week, someone told me that all these people that they're bringing in, the immigrants they're bringing in, they're not only paying for their accommodation, but they're also giving them £50 a day spending money.
And can I ask, what, aside from Manx rumour mills and gossip, because that's not fact, when you say people being brought in, where's this information come from, Liz?
It came from, well, not from anybody in government. It's sort of like a Chinese whisper. I was just wanting to know if it was right. This came from someone who had it from somebody else, and this somebody else, they did work but they just work in government, but not in the office. It's just in like doing the roads and stuff like that.
Right.
So I won't say the name was.
Well, in terms of bringing people in, we don't obviously bring people in. The Island Plan does say that we have an aspiration to grow the population of the Isle of Man. And if you go on the website locate.im, that there is details there of how to relocate to the Isle of Man, so we can bring in people that we need to build the economy. And looking at the page here, it says there's a national insurance holiday scheme. There's an employee relocation incentive to bring people to the Isle of Man. But it's not just a case of shipping over immigrants, as it were.
Incentive. Would that be £50 a day incentive?
No, it says... It says here that if your business is interested in relocating an employee to the Isle of Man, the employee relocation incentive means that your business could receive up to 20% of your employee's first year salary costs to make them basically relocate to the Isle of Man. And it's the business incentive is a 20% grant of up to £10,000 towards the cost of relocating the employee's first year net salary. So there we go. It's about basically bringing businesses to the Isle of Man for more people to be here, pay tax and spend in the shops, I'd imagine.
Well, I was in Liverpool last week waiting to board a plane, and there was a lady there who obviously wasn't English, she wasn't Irish, she was a foreigner, and she was on the phone constantly, which is like a mobile phone, state-of-the-art, brand-new phone, and she was talking to somebody, and she says, we'll stay in the Isle of Man for a few weeks, but we might move to, I think it was either Guernsey or Jersey, she said, where you get 30% more. So what she was talking about, 30%. All these people have got it all worked out. They know where to go. They know what to claim. I mean, you know...
When you say 30% more, do you mean as in that the...
I don't know what she meant. I just overheard her conversation. Because I was up for us.
But my point is, Liz, your conversation there is 1 and 1 makes 5. Was she talking about 30% more income, less income tax, benefits?
That must be. I think it would have been benefits.
Well, you can't claim benefits until you've been here for 5 years.
Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. You're not a resident until you've been here for 5 years, and this comes from I'm a come over, I'm a stopover. But you're not a Manx resident for 5 years.
No, well, I've been here since 1967, and I did get pregnant in '69, and all I was offered was a one-way ticket back to Ireland.
Well, at least you were offered a one-way ticket. I mean, at least that's something. Nowadays, that's quite a lot of money, you know.
That would have been well, and that was like in 1969.
Yes.
I can't remember how much it was to come to the island then, so it wasn't very much. Not like it is now, really. It's very, very different. And regarding the new wall to put down on the promenade, I did tell them maybe a couple of years ago, why don't you take the stones off the beach, use them to make roads. If you mix stones up with cement, it makes a very good surface on the road, unlike this tarmac they're putting down, which is lifting everywhere.
There is rather a number of potholes, isn't there?
There are loads. The roads are a mess. I don't know. The tarmac doesn't seem to last. But if you make a road with good cement and put stones in it, it makes a very good solid road. So it does.
Brilliant. Well, I'll tell you now, Liz, we've got a general election in a year. Would you stand and maybe go for, the Minister of Department of Infrastructure?
I would love to, but I'm not that well educated. I mean, I left school at 14. I went in at 4 and came out at 14. And there wasn't a great deal of learning in between.
You're educated at the School of Life and Hard Knocks.
I was educated more so
go.
when I came out. Because, I mean, I'm 76 now, so I think I'm too old to run for politics, aren't I? I'm not the Pope. They let him in at any age.
All right, Liz. Lovely to talk to you. Thank you very much for your call today. Would we have been better cleaner in the beach? I know full well that is a topic of conversation that we could be on for hours. But Diane is online too. Hello, Diane.
Hello, Alex. I don't think I've spoken to you on Mannin Line before.
Possibly not. It's lovely to speak to you.
Yeah. What I was ringing about, sort of basically a couple of things.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, I won't be voting I didn't vote last time. I won't be voting this time because all they want you for is for your vote. And then once they've got your vote, they go in and carry on the agenda of the WEF. So, when somebody talked about standing on your own 2 feet, we've already got the WEF standing on our feet, on our necks.
Well,
So,
the World Economic Forum is, it's a theory that many people have, and I think we could be here for hours debating it. But yes, in terms of you don't want to vote for
I just want to say that. Now, what I've rung up about is there's a school. I don't know if that's the only one, sort of junior for children.
Mm-hmm.
They've abolished Easter.
Right.
So they're having, the country is, they're having a week. Mind you, there's 52 weeks in the year, and they've got to have this one to celebrate or for refugees.
Well, this is basically that it's Norwood Primary School, and they've cancelled their Easter service in spirit of inclusivity and has introduced Refugee Week. Yes.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another. I mean, they abolished Christmas, but not that school, but more or less in London, Christmas had been abolished. And anyway, there's somebody that I was reading about. He plans to go out and buy 300 Easter eggs to give the children of that school.
Well, it has been that there's been quite a backlash from this.
I'm not surprised.
With primary school branded as disgraceful as it cancels its annual Easter festival. So I don't think this is going to be something that is going to go away and possibly will continue in its current form, shall we say.
Well, it shouldn't even be done once. The Christian religion is what the Constitution is based on, which includes Magna Carta and all the rest of it.
Yep.
And so it's actually, and there's another, I don't know where the small, there's only 800 people live in this, I suppose you'd call it a village. Mm-hmm. And they've decided there to close the church and turn it into a mosque.
Is it? Well, are we still in the same place now, Eastleigh?
No, I don't know where this is. They didn't say where it was.
Right.
And they decided they're going to destroy all the grass or park outside and turn that into a car park. But this is going on.
Right.
And it's like these 15-minute cities.
Right.
Which they're now putting up in the middle of Douglas.
I'm having trouble keeping up with you here now. Right, so 15-minute cities, yes. The idea that wherever you live, you'll be able to walk within 15 minutes to all the services you require.
Yeah, you're only allowed to leave so many times a year.
What, as in the fact that you think you're going to be locked in?
Well, yes, stop you moving around.
Where's the evidence for the fact that's
well, that's all over the UK.
15-minute cities that lock you in. I mean, that's a prison.
Yeah, no. In Cambridge, there's a road called Hill Road.
Yeah.
And that's just ever so long, and it's got all these individual little shops. You can more or less get anything there.
Well,
halfway through there's a bridge. So they're charging people £9 to go over the bridge.
Right.
So other than that, they've got to drive miles out and all the way round and into the other end. So this thing is going on everywhere.
Well, I've just done a quick look on that one, and it says here, the conspiracy theory linking 15-minute cities to sinister ploys to control people have been debunked. People seem to think that local councils will have additional powers to restrict people's freedom of movement, and whilst they're meant to reduce car traffic, they don't stop people from using other forms of transport or transporting themselves anywhere else.
No, but yes, if you use public transport, but in these places, if you've got elderly people or whatever, and they're walking,
right,
in the pouring rain or the snow or the frost and God knows what, because everybody would be on the buses.
Yeah, but you're not being forced to live in a 15-minute city. It's not a camp we're being taken to. So I'd imagine that people who live...
They haven't been told here in Douglas, have they? They haven't been told anything.
Well,
they had a meeting,
yes,
and all there is 89 parking spaces with 287, is it, bikes?
But Liz, in terms of, Diane, in terms of the actual accommodation, as you say, they're not being forced to move into 15-minute cities, because this is just an area of development. In the same way that if I want, I'm not being forced to live in a high-rise flat or forced to live in a massive house. No. It's a place of choice. So if you're not able to use public transport, you're not being forced to do anything. It's offering the choice, isn't it?
Well, it is. If you kind of go on, it's particularly in bad weather, and you're walking along, carrying, and you're very elderly. I mean, I'm 83. I've been around a long time.
Yeah,
I've seen all this happening, and you're likely to get your shopping mugged. I mean, once you get rid of cash, which they're doing, and you're using excuses by closing the banks. Then you if you haven't got any cash, these people don't believe me. I believe that woman. They'll be coming. They're not going to buy their stuff. They're going to take it from somebody that's walking along in these 15-minute cities.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you for your thoughts on that one, Diane. Lovely to speak to you. I should once again just point out that despite I can see Diane's concerns and worries there, that the idea of a 15-minute city is not to lock people within 15-minute cities, and it's certainly... I don't think there's any evidence to suggest that muggings would increase in terms of people walking home with their shopping, but it is to encourage more active travel and give people the choice of living in an area where car usage could be decreased, because we do whinge, of course, about possibly the scourge of the motor vehicle as well. Right, I'm going to go through a few more messages in a moment before I have to get out of here.
The Loganair sale is now on, with savings to put a spring in your step. Save up to 17% off flights when booking online and entering promo code SPRING17. Book by midnight April 1st. Travel from 1st May. Find deals at loganair.co.uk. T's and C's apply, subject to availability. Discount excludes taxes and surcharges.
There's more than you think at Manx Glass and Glazing. As well as the supply and installation of quality windows, doors and conservatories, Manx Glass and Glazing can do a lot more with glass. If you need made-to-measure picture frame glass or a cut-to-size mirror, or how about glass shelves made to fit your space perfectly. You can also get glass cut for the tops of cabinets, units and bedside tables. For bespoke glass cutting and products, call Manx Glass and Glazing on 674 573. Manx Glass and Glazing. Quality and style since 1986.
I began to struggle with the stairs, but I didn't want to leave our family home. So my daughter told me about Acorn Stair Lifts and their new showroom in Douglas. I was able to try the stair lifts and find the right one for me and the home I love. They were so friendly. The whole process was hassle-free, and they offered the whole package from installation to servicing. Choose the island's first choice for stair lifts. Acorn Stair Lifts, South Quay, Douglas.
Call Acorn Stair Lifts now on 672 414 or call into our Douglas showroom.
Take a trip to Peel and discover 6 Ways of Seeing, a new exhibition at the House of Mannin, featuring the work of 6 contemporary artists, creating artworks inspired by the Isle of Man, from intricate drawings to stunning paintings and incredible stone carvings. 6 Ways of Seeing, open daily at the House of Mannin in Peel. Admission is free, with donations welcome to Manx National Heritage, supporting our charity's work in caring for the Isle of Man's incredible heritage.
The Mannin Line, daily interaction, debate and exchange of ideas. Broadcast on Manx Radio from midday till 1, Monday to Friday.
Just a few moments left for me to get through some of your messages. Thank you to Mark, who says, the universal response of a conspiracy theorist when presented with facts is yes, but... Okay. Thank you very much for that one, Mark. I think it was a compliment. Steve says, generally terrifying, the conspiracy rubbish that people are fed by their algorithms these days and believe without question. And these people think that they're enlightened free thinkers. The internet is terrifying. I will probably dig out, actually. There was an experiment that somebody did on TikTok, and they just started a profile and that was it. They didn't say they liked anything, to do anything at all. And it's amazing what got pushed to them based purely on their age and gender. And it's quite scary. And if you think that social media is feeding you the truth and isn't controlled, maybe think again. Here we go. Anyone that says, this is a message in from Rob, anyone that says that Douglas is not clean is talking rubbish. Onken, Braddon roads and pavements are terrible. Douglas is spotless compared to them. I hate people saying Douglas is dirty and run down. That's your thoughts on that one, Rob. I would possibly argue that there is substantial evidence that says the otherwise. Thank you. Hi, Alex. There should be a risk assessment done on all candidates standing at the next election on their suitability to become an MHK. I think that falls into the job qualification sort of argument, doesn't it? That's an interesting one. Tony says that it's about time voting for elections should be available online. Everything else is. Now, I will put out there the question, do you trust everything being online? Okay. Would you trust a national election not to be interfered with by some foreign power? Mentioning no names. And a few more of your messages in here. Let's have a look. Oh, my word. H says that the bigots are crawling out of the woodwork. Parents can always take their kids to church if they feel strongly about religious festivals. Schools should not be pushing one religion. They should teach you all religions. Easter came from a pagan festival, says H. Yeah, that is your opinion. Of course, the other thing is that as it stands, I think the point that was made is that the country officially is a Christian country. Whether you feel that's right or wrong, that's a different argument. But also, thank you very much to David, who says, Alex, can I say again, you don't get potholes on cobblestone streets. No, they're not the smoothest, though, David. It has to be said. And thank you to 653, who says, an immigrant to the Isle of Man is complaining about immigration to the Isle of Man. You can't make it up. Well, this is Mannin Line, of course. And thank you to Stuart, who also says, please tell Liz I've got some magic beans for sale. Yeah, it's been one of those days, I feel. And also, thank you to George, who says, have you seen the council flat railings in Douglas? Rusty and not painted for 30 years. Blame council. But they're busy putting up nice signs for the city status. Glad you've all got all that off your chest. Thank you to Chris Quirk on the phones. I'll speak to you tomorrow. Take care. Ta-da.